Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, if you're thinking that early reading and writing is just about breaking out the flashcards and drilling the ABCs, well, get ready to completely shift your perspective. We're about to look at some seriously fascinating data and research that completely redefines what it actually means to become literate.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to redefine early literacy, dig into oral language foundations, look at why explicit phonological instruction absolutely works, talk about embedding First Nations perspectives, and wrap it all up with some best practices for you, the educators.
Let's just jump right into it with our first topic, redefining early literacy.
You know, we usually start with this really narrow view. We assume preschool literacy is just this rigid, mechanical checklist. Learn letter A, learn letter B, crank through the alphabet to Z, and then memorize beginning and middle sounds. And sure, those alphabetic fundamentals, they are totally a piece of the puzzle. But viewing literacy as just this sequential, rote task, honestly, it severely limits a child's potential. It treats reading and writing like a set of isolated skills, rather than a dynamic, exciting way to interact with the world around them.
So, we really need to zoom out here. The Early Years Learning Framework radically redefines this whole concept. They describe literacy as a child's capacity, confidence, and disposition to use language in all its forms. Think about that for a second. It's not just capacity, like can they do it, but confidence and disposition. Do they actually want to do it? Are they engaged? It means we're shifting our entire focus to how kids express who they are, how they connect with others, and how they start to influence their world.
Which brings us right to our second section, oral language foundations.
Research shows us that the bedrock of all this is shared connection. Even in their first 2 years, way before they're actually talking a great deal, infants are actively listening. They are figuring out what language actually does. They use sounds, gestures, body language, the whole shebang, just to express feelings and connect with us. Literally, before they even speak a single word, babies are leading conversations. They point, they hold things out to responsive adults. Oral language really sets the entire scene.
And since we're completely redefining literacy, we kind of have to expand our definition of texts, too. I mean, literacy isn't just printed books and magazines anymore, right? The framework makes it clear that texts are basically anything we read, view, listen to, or create to share meaning. We're talking about a rich, multimodal world here. Talking, listening, music, movement, dance, visual arts, and yeah, digital and electronic media, for sure. These diverse modes give preschoolers the tools to express really complex ideas and feelings that they just might not have the vocabulary to say out loud yet.
All right, let's keep moving. Section 3, Explicit Phonological Instruction Works. We're going to look at how this plays out in the real world. There's some incredible data from a real-world case study in the rural Northern Territory, and the crucial point here is that educators noticed a massive problem. School leadership realized that the foundational oral language and early literacy skills they were expecting, well, they just weren't there when the kids arrived on the mat for their first day of school. So instead of just pushing forward with the ad hoc, whole language approaches that were kind of the standard at the time, these educators decided to partner up with speech pathologists and a regional university to actually do something about it. Their solution? The explicit, intentional teaching of phonological awareness. Rather than just crossing their fingers and hoping kids would naturally pick up sounds through exposure, educators actively taught them how to perceive and produce those sounds. This meant weekly whole-class lessons where they were explicitly shown mouth moves, literally how your mouth needs to move to make the sounds. And that was followed up by small group games to practice identifying and playing with those sounds in meaningful, culturally familiar ways.
And you guys, the results were absolutely staggering. When they tested these rural preschool children before and after the intervention using the Phonological Awareness Skills Test, or PAST, students showed an 82% average improvement in their total post-test scores. 82%. That is a massive leap. It just proves that intentional, explicit instruction works exceptionally well, even with our youngest learners.
To put that data into perspective, before the intervention, nearly 1 in 5 students, about 18% of the cohort, achieved a total score of only 0 or 1 out of 96. They were struggling, big time. But this targeted teaching successfully pulled a huge portion of those students right out of that 0 to 1 range. It literally shifted the entire bell curve of achievement forward. It is such a powerful testament to structured phonological instruction. Okay, zooming out a bit further now to our fourth section, embedding First Nations perspectives.
Because early literacy doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? To create a truly culturally safe environment, educators have to start by acknowledging a child's home language as their true first language.
It is absolutely crucial to make a clear, respectful distinction between standard Australian English and the languages spoken at home. This isn't just a linguistic technicality. It's about validating the child's entire identity. It shows them that their cultural background is an amazing asset to their literacy journey, not some kind of hurdle they have to jump over.
So how do we actually do this on a practical level? Well, embedding Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives means authentically integrating them into literally everything you do. It means teaching local words during daily play. It's using traditional celestial navigation stories to explore geometric shapes and spatial math. It involves displaying authentic symbols and arc, engaging community elders that come in, yarn, and share special stories, and even getting physical, like walking on country or establishing a native garden to teach sustainability. We're talking about full program integration here, not just a couple of token add-ons.
But, and this is a big but, as we do this, it is absolutely vital to respect Indigenous cultural and intellectual property, or ISIP. We can't just take these resources, we have to uphold these fundamental rights. That means ensuring the community maintains self-determination and control over their own knowledge. It requires getting prior, fully informed consent before using any cultural expressions. We have to fiercely guard the cultural integrity and privacy of this knowledge, and always, always provide full attribution to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples sharing their rich heritage with us.
Finally, let's tie this all together in Section 5, Best Practices for Educators.
The Australian Education Research Organization, AERO, highly recommends striking a really solid balance here. You need to balance child-initiated activities, like imaginative play where they're talking with their peers and exploring visual props, with intentional teacher-led opportunities. So, for example, you might observe a child deep in imaginative play and then follow that up with a shared reading session. Or you might repeat and define some new vocabulary they just used, or even run one of those explicit phonological awareness games we saw work so beautifully in the Northern Territory.
But honestly, above all else, to be a truly effective literacy educator, you've got to remain a learner yourself. It is so essential to understand the developmental trajectories of early literacy, from infancy right up to school age. You need to continuously assess what your learners know so you can tailor your interactions directly to them. Work with your educational leaders, seek out structured professional development, and just continuously reflect on your everyday practices.
We've covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, but I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from researchers Piasta and Hudson. They say, scientific findings do not teach children to read, teachers do. That's you. You are the catalyst. The data is clear, the methods are proven, and the cultural frameworks are there to guide us. So what does this all mean for you? How will you take this paradigm shift and use it to reshape the literacy journey in your own community? Thank you so much for joining me today, and I honestly cannot wait to see the incredible impact you're going to make in your classrooms.